everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the fall campaign in Astro Knights Eternity. We got rocked pretty hard by Bolt Fusion last week, so now we're on to the next battle of the campaign now. With that, let's go ahead and set the scene for this next battle. We've got more pre-fight text. No, Pan, the man introduces himself. Pan, I'm sorry. Caleb reaches a hand down to help Pan up off his knees. I want to help, but we're not the real Astro Knights. They're long gone. What's an Astro Knight? Pan cocks his head to the side, one of his cat-like ears twitching. I just watched you risk your lives to defend everyone from that monster. You're heroes. You have to be. I don't know what else to do. Whoa, calm down. Sana rests a hand on Pan's arm, rubbing comfortingly. Just tell us what's happening. Maybe we can help. Pan takes a deep breath, balling his eyes into fists to try to stop them from shaking. I come from a planet called Felis. It's not far from here, in a system... Well, I don't know what you would all call it, but we are in a system with a sun that is nearing the end of its life. Our astronomers have been tracking its progress towards complete implosion, and it can only be a matter of days now. When it finishes, the resulting solar shockwaves will tear Felis apart and my entire species will be wiped out. You are describing the process of a supernova. It is the natural death of any star above C-class. Zack lifts a finger as they explain. This is the way of the universe. Even an Astro Knight cannot stop it. Yeah, I mean, look, kid. I'm really sorry about your planet, but what have your leaders been doing dallying around on this? Caleb rests a hand on Pan's shoulder. The whole comforting thing has never been his strong suit. It's evacuation time. You don't understand. Pan grabs Caleb by the wrist with both hands, his eyes wide and pleading. We are not an advanced civilization. We spent years frantically developing a shuttle that could make it through our atmosphere intact. As far as I know, I'm the only ship that found civilization, or the only ship that even survived the launch. We've barely begun to dip our claws into space travel. There's no hope that we could figure out how to make a big enough ship to evacuate the entire world. Oh. Caleb's heart drops to his stomach. He doesn't know this world. He doesn't know these people. It shouldn't be his responsibility to save an entire species. He's just one person. One lousy nobody from the gutters of Centuron City. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, kid. But my ship, she's not built for evacuations. She can barely fit us four. What can I do? I don't know. Pan chokes out through the tears running down his face. I've asked everyone. I've been here for days, begging someone to help, and everyone's told me it's too much. They can't evacuate a whole planet. They can't do anything. But you're a hero, aren't you? I need you to do something. I need someone to do something. Anyone. His grip on Caleb's wrist tightens desperately. Please. Caleb looks over at Zack, as if he might find an answer in their expressionless face. A sun-going supernova, a whole planet on the brink. This is too big. It's just too much. No one person should have to hold this burden. We don't have to fight them all, Zack had said. We just need to inspire people to work together and stand up for people and stand up for themselves. Caleb squeezes Pan's shoulder once and then lets go. Don't worry, Pan. We'll save your people. You're under the protection of the Astro Knights. Everyone is staring at him in confusion, but there's no time to waste. Caleb rushes into the crowd and finds a bit of rubble from the attack, something he can climb until he's standing over the hubbub of terrified patrons, slowly calming down. Everyone, he shouts, projecting his voice as loudly as possible. Listen up. Caleb's voice doesn't carry very far over the noise of the crowd, but the people closest to him can hear. They turn to look at him and start to chatter excitedly. That's the man who fought the giant robot, someone shouts. He was one of the people who saved us, calls another. I recognize that symbol, cries an old woman, who rests a hand on her chest in amazement. He's an Astro Knight. The Astro Knights have returned. The murmur passes through the crowd until everyone is staring at Caleb expectantly. He takes a deep breath and swallows his fear. This is so much bigger than him now. People of the Galactic Bazaar. My name is Captain Caleb Cruz, and I... Caleb looks down into the crowd and sees Reshi standing in front of him, smiling. And Sana, Zack, Rex and Pan just behind her. Even Shield Bow's there. I am an Astro Knight, and right now, we need your help. Okay, so walk me through how this works one more time. Reshi eyes the hulking machine Rex is currently soldering onto the hangar bay with obvious distrust. It's just like your old tractor beam, but better in every possible way. Rex leans back from his work and pats it proudly. This grav tether is fully loaded, with 10 times the power, and it can even latch onto non-solid objects. We're basically turning the Bobcat into a gravitational force the size of a moon. And are you sure that's not going to tear the ship apart? Reshi asks, bracing her hands on her hips as she inspects the engineering work that went into the dubious invention. I'd give it 7 to 30 odds, Rex answers with a lopsided grin. Pretty good. Shield Bow, beeps Shield Bow in agreement. Could be worse. Much worse, Reshi grumbles. No time to wait and perfect the system, unfortunately, Resh. Caleb calls down from the cockpit. It's now or never for the people of Fellis. Everyone clear on the plan? All the people from the Galactic Bazaar are flying their ships down to Fellis, Pan answers, bracing himself against the back of Caleb's pilot chair so he can stare out the cockpit window. They'll evacuate the populace as quickly as they can, each ship taking as many people as it can manage to fit and bringing them back to the bazaar. Meanwhile, we will do a big loop around the sun that's about to explode, keeping our gravity tether focused on it, Reshi continues. This will slow the implosion by keeping the heavy metals in the star pulled outwards, and delay the supernova long enough to give the volunteers time to evacuate Fellis. It will also be our duty to keep rubble, debris, and solar flares away from the planet and the escaping ships, Zack adds. And blast anything that comes at us, Sana calls down from her gunner's perch. Okay, Astro Knights, Caleb says with a grin, stretching his fingers across the control column. Sounds like it's time to fight the sun. Well, yeah, we won't talk about my feelings on the sun, but this seems like it's going to be an interesting challenge. But let's start off by meeting the knights that we're deploying into this battle, and we'll go to who's going to be player 1 today. Our first knight today, predictably, is our newest knight in Pan. Starts off with 1 slot, no power, and 10 health. His special ability at 4 power, activate during your main phase. Return up to 2 cards from your hand or discard pile with supply deck icons in their lower left corner to the bottom of their corresponding supply decks. For each card returned this way, gain the top card of that supply deck and place it into your hand. Some new abilities, we've got the invention once again. He's got the Molten Core that we can gain anytime by paying its energy cost. And you actually can't see it. For 3 energy, to gain it, we can gain 2, and there's an afterburn when we discard it. Actually, afterburn, I believe, is... Let me just double check that. Afterburn... Here we go. Can only be used when it's in your discard pile. So when it's in the discard pile, you can resolve its effect to power up, which will give another power. New to this scenario also is a combo. Dual Inferno. When player X, in this case is going to be player 2 because Pan is going to be player 1, gains a slot, you may destroy a card in your hand. Alright, I will put that there. Go there. There. And there. I think I want the combo down over here. That way I've got space up here for where the equipped cards can go. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and meet player 2. Player 2 should combo, or player Pan's Dual Inferno should combo very well with player 2, who is, of course, Sana. And I forgot to go through Pan's story, but we won't worry about that here. Right. I usually don't go through I sometimes go through backstories, sometimes I don't. 10 health, 0 slots, and 0 power to start with. Her special ability at 3 powers activate during your main phase to attack with all of your weapons. You may lose any number of slots to return that many weapons from your discard pile to your hand. Her combo ability is Alpha Formation. When player 1 plays or equips 2 or more cards that cost 1 energy or more on a turn, you gain 1 health. Okay, and her invention is a relay dagger costing 5 energy. Attack, deal 4 damage. Any ally may discard a card. If they do, return this to your hand. Alright, that may be something we want to look into grabbing at some point. Whoop. What I want to grab is the yellow disc that fell off the table at this point. So we'll set that there, that there, that there, and player 2. Alright, with that, let's go ahead and meet the homeworld that we're defending today. We are defending Pan's homeworld today of Fellis. 27 health, which is already set up on the dial up here. 3 power, which that can go on 0. Activate during any player's main phase, deal 8 damage to a minion. Hopefully we won't need to make too much use of that, but with that in mind, let's move up and meet our adversary today. We are taking on the Solar Collision today. Apparently stopping a supernova is a thing, who knew? Special rules to note. When a card says to advance the supernova, move the boss disc 1 space forward on the supernova track and it will start on 1. If this would move the disc to a space with a solar flare token, which 6, 8, 10, and 12 are, reveal that token, resolve it immediately, and then discard it. Don't replace solar flare tokens after they have been discarded. When a card says to push back the supernova, move the boss disc back 1 space, backwards on the supernova track. If the boss disc is on the leftmost space of the supernova track, it can't be pushed back. When the boss disc reaches the final space of the supernova track, which is 14, the sun explodes and the players lose. And then we're just going to fail forward from that. So I've got the flares all set up here. And when a player is exhausted, we advance the supernova. So we need to keep ourselves from being exhausted at all costs. With that in mind, let's move over to the market. I also forgot to mention the Solar Collision has 60 health. We normally have 6 market decks, but this time we've got a 7th, where we've got a gravity tether that's always available for 3 ether, for 3 energy. We can either gain 2 energy when we play it, or push back the supernova. So we definitely want to be keeping that supernova track in check. But let's reveal our starting market. First up we have Ectoplasm for 4 energy. Bolster, the active player gains 4 energy, return this card to your hand. So bolster means when we discard it, I believe, when it's discarded during an ally's turn. So the active player gains 1 energy, and then that returns to your hand. Gain 2 energy when you play it. Next up, Corona Flare for 3 energy. Gain 2 energy. If you have 3 or more equipped weapons, gain 3 energy instead. This should be the tech deck then. And it is Adrenal Booster for 3. Attack with any player's weapon. Place that card in the discard that player's discard pile. Reveal the top card of the turn order deck. Return that card to the top or bottom of the deck. And these should be all weapons. Double Shot for 4. Attack, deal 2 damage, then deal 2 damage to a minion. Effects that modify damage affect both instances of damage this weapon deals, Next up, Remote Detonator for 5 energy. Attack, deal 4 damage. Any player may return a card with Bolster from their discard pile to their hand. And Heavy Mecha Cannon for 7 energy. Attack, deal 7 damage. If you have your maximum number of slots, increase that damage by 3. Okay, so that might be a good weapon for Sana to grab, but let's move back up top to check the shot one more time. I'm also looking at the shot here with an idea of maybe streaming this game in the future, but I've always been a little bit hesitant on doing that, just because I don't like having... Because this is a game that's fairly camera-cutty, so I'm kind of hesitant on streaming the more camera-cutty a game is, but this would probably work fine. Anyway, we're all set to get into this game here, so let's jump right into it. If you're happening upon Astro Knights for the first time, I'll explain how turn order works in this game. Turn order is actually done via a randomized turn order deck. It's always constructed the same way. For 2 players, we have 2 boss turns and 2 cards for each player. So we'll give these all a shuffle up. And then once I feel like these are ready to go, we'll draw one, and that will be the turn, and we'll continue with that, shuffling the turn order deck as needed until the game's over. All right, and this will be our first card out of the turn order deck. Here we will find player 2, so let's move down right away to Sana. Sana will start off by spending three energy to gain a slot. Then she's going to equip her booster boots, which will give her another slot once the disc decides to cooperate, and we'll equip her blaster. Very uneventful turn there. Okay. Next card coming up is player 1. So let's move over to Pan. Sana actually did gain 2 slots, but I didn't bother worrying about Pan's Dual Inferno because this early in the game we're not destroying anything. Alright, we'll start off by equipping a blaster, and we've got 4 energy to buy with, including Pan's Delta Wave. That also says if you gain a card that costs 4 energy or more this turn, power up. And I think Pan will gain the Ectoplasm right away, which will let him power up. And then replacing that in the mid-cost fuel deck is Distilled Force for 6 energy, gain 3, with an afterburn effect of dealing 2 damage. Alright, we will stack it like that, and then draw back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card out of the turn order deck is a boss turn, so let's move up to the Solar Collision. I'm just going to check the discard pile one more time because it does not seem... Nope. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because there were not a lot of cards in the... There are not a lot of cards in this boss deck because there's only one, so the boss is going to be leveling up almost immediately. So the first card for Solar Collision is Burning Wreckage, a minion for 4 health. Activate, the homeworld suffers 2 damage. For each other minion in play, advance the supernova. So thankfully, it does not count itself for purposes of advancing the supernova. Next card out of the turn order deck coming out is a boss turn, so it's a good thing we're back up top. So we activate the boss, except there's nothing there to activate. Then we activate the Burning Wreckage, which brings Felis down to 25. And then once again, for each other minion in play, we would advance the supernova, but we don't. But since the boss deck is empty, it will level up. So minions immediately gain 2 health, and then we'll give the rest of the boss deck a shuffle. This is not much of a deck. It's only another 5 cards. We're going to go through this quickly. So now the Burning Wreckage has 6 health. Alright. And the next card is a Solar Shockwave Strike. If any player suffers 4 damage or activate a minion in play, if Solar Collision is level 3 or higher, which it's not, do both. We are going to activate the Burning Wreckage again to have Felis suffer another 2 damage, going down to 23. And once again, for each other minion in play, we advance the supernova, except there are no other minions in play. Next card out of the turn order deck is player 1. So let's move down to Pan. Pan is going to blast the Burning Wreckage for 1 damage. We'll get a die out for that. Then we'll equip the blaster, and we've got 4 to buy with, which is going to be, I think... I think here we're going to take another slot, and then we're going to let the extra 1 go to waste. And then similar to Aeon's End, you never shuffle your discard pile. You just flip your discard pile over and draw when you're out. Okay. And then last card in the turn order deck. Hey, look at that, it's player 2, so let's move over to Sana. We'll blast the Burning Wreckage for another 2 damage to bring it up to 3 health. Put the booster boots on the discard pile first. Then we'll equip 2 more blasters, and we'll have 3 energy to buy with, which I think will be a Corona Flare. And then replacing that will be a Dark Matter Core. For 3 energy, gain 2. And an Afterburn effect, you may discard a card to power up the homeworld. Alright, we'll flip that over. Oop, 2 blasters are equipped. Okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. So far, our Knights are still at full strength. Fellas has already taken 4 damage from the Burning Wreckage that's out. Pan has a blaster equipped in one of his slots. Sana's got 2 blasters equipped in hers. As for the Solar Collision, no change in its health. The Burning Wreckage has had its health cut in half due to the Solar Collision leveling up once. So now we'll grab the turn order deck and get ready for a new run through it. Right, there's our cut. And then we'll draw a new card from the turn order discard pile. We'll find boss turns. Let's move up to the Solar Collision. Fellas will take another 2 damage, going down to 21, and there are no other minions in play right now. Next card up is Nuclear Fusion. The homeworld suffers 3 damage and advances the supernova. Fellas is down to 18. And we advance the supernova to level 2. Next card up from the turn order deck is player 1. Let's move down to Pan. Pan is going to start by blasting the Burning Wreckage for another 1. Sana will take it out on her next turn. Then we've got a total of 6 to buy with, and if we gain a card that costs 4 or more this turn, power up. Which I think Pan... I don't think Pan is gaining a card that costs... Well, is he? No, I don't think he is, but I think we will gain the Molten Core. So now that that's in his discard pile, you may use this when you... Yep, okay, so we can use that. We'll use the Afterburn there to power up. And then we'll use another 3, the other 3, to gain a Dark Matter Core. Then we're not going to use the Afterburn effect on that one, so we're placing the Dark Matter Core. Here's a Quantum Sphere for 2, or for 3. Gain 2 Ether, any ally may discard a card. If they do, gain 3 energy instead. I keep calling it energy, except it's not. I keep calling it ether, except it's not. Alright. Next card out of the turn order deck is player 2. Let's move over to Sana. Sana's 2 blasters are going to wipe out the Burning Wreckage, at least for the time being. Then we're going to equip the booster boots to gain another slot. Pan can destroy a card in hand. He will not do that. We'll equip another blaster, and we've got 3 energy to 3 energy to buy with, which will be a quantum sphere. And then replacing that in the market. Once this decides to focus, we have a Starburst for 2. Gain 2 energy. You may destroy this card to gain 3 instead. All right, the power cores will move to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card from the turn order deck is player 2. Good thing we're right here with Sana. We'll do our first 2 damage to the Solar Collision, bringing it down to 58. Then we will equip the Blaster, and we've got a total of 5 to buy with, which 5 will get Sana the Remote Detonator. Then replacing that will be an Atmoscope for 5 energy. Attack, deal 4 damage. Any ally may discard a card. If they do, deal 2 damage to a minion. Those will move to the discard pile. Then we'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 draw back up. Okay. Next card up. Boss turns. Let's move up to the Solar Collision. We got rid of the only minion in play, so nothing to activate. New card for the Solar Collision is an Asteroid Shard. 7 health. Activate, advance the Supernova. If Solar Collision is 3 or higher, the homeworld suffers 2 damage. Okay, so that's not too catastrophic, but we see in the turn order deck, hey, look at that, it's player 1, so let's move down to Pan. Had a little bit of a minor crisis there where I couldn't find Pan's hand. Anyway, he's got a Blaster to prepare, or to equip, and he's got 4 energy to buy with, which I think is going to be grabbing a double shot. And replacing that will be an RB7 launcher for 4. Attack, deal 3 damage, gain an energy. You may destroy the top card of any supply deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I don't hate that. Just looking at his hand here. Okay, let's have a little less derpiness here, Phoenix. We'll put that down there. Let's move back up top to check out how the board state's changed. We're still at full strength in terms of health. Sana's got 3 slots. Pan has 2. Pan has 2 power. Pan has 0. Homeworld has taken a little bit of a beating, though, at 18 health. Moving up to the Solar Collision, it's got an Asteroid Shard out. It's level 2 right now, and it's got 58 health. So we need to do some work with all of those. But we'll give the turn order deck a shuffle and see what we're able to do about all of that. All right. First card up from the turn order deck is player 2. Let's move down to Sana. Sana is going to hit the Asteroid Shard for 1 with the Blaster. Then we've got another Blaster to prepare. And we've got 5 to buy with potentially 6 if Pan wants to discard a card. Pan will not. So we have 5 to buy with, which I think will be I think it's going to be an Atmoscope for 5. And then replacing that will be HOV Artillery for 6. Bolster, deal 1 damage. Return a card from your discard pile to your hand. Attack, deal 5 damage. And then Sana will move all of that into her discard pile and draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card up will be a boss turn, so let's move up to the Solar Collision. The Supernova will advance to level 3 because of the Asteroid Shard activating. Solar Collision is only level 2, so we don't worry about the extra text on the Asteroid Shard. Next card coming up is Planetary Rubble for 4 health. Activate, any player discards a card and suffers 1 damage. For every other minion in play, this minion gains 1 health. It's actually got 6 health because the Solar Collision is level 2. Next card out of the turn order deck is Player 1. Let's move down to Pan. Pan will hit the Planetary Rubble for 1. I want to see if I can take that out. We've got another blaster to equip. And we've got a total of 4, 5, 7 to buy with, which will be I think we are going to gain a heavy mecha cannon for 7, which will let Pan power up. And then replacing that in the market will be a sword breaker for 8. Attack deals 7 damage, and on an afterburn, you may discard 2 equipped weapons to return this card to your hand. Okay. We'll move that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card from the turn order deck. Player 2, so let's move back over to Sana. Alright, we'll blaster the Planetary Rubble for another 1. Then we're going to equip the Booster Boots to gain a slot. Then a blaster and a detonator. And then we've got a total of 4 to buy with because Sana has 3 equipped weapons on the Corona Flare. Which I think for that it's going to be... I think Sana's going to take... She's going to take the Distilled Force for 6. Replacing that will be Atomic Echo for 5. Bolster to draw 2 cards and gain 3 energy. We'll use the Afterburn on the Distilled Force to deal the Planetary Rubble another 2 damage. And those will move to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I don't completely hate that. Next card out of the turn order deck we have Player 1, so let's move back over to Pan. We'll hit the Planetary Rubble for 1 to bring it up to 5 health. Then let me look at Afterburn effects here. We'll resolve the Molten Core to power up. Then you may discard a card to power up the Home World, which we will... Yeah, we'll do that since the minions are probably about to start getting stronger. I want to try to strengthen that. Then return up to 2 cards from your deck, from your hand or discard pile with supply deck icons in their lower left corner to the bottom of the corresponding decks. I'm just deciding if I want to activate that or not. And I think I do, actually. I think I will go ahead and activate that ability. So I'm going to return the... What did I decide? I was going to return the... I'm going to return the Heavy Mecha Cannon to the bottom of that deck. And I'm going to return the Ectoplasm. Which means I'll gain those cards to my hand. So I gain the Atomic Echo... And I'll gain the Sword Breaker. And then replacing the Atomic Echo, we have Tensor Fiend for 5 energy. Gain 2. If any ally may discard a card. If they do, place the next card you gain this turn into your hand. And then replacing the Swordbreaker will be Tai Sabaki Assault for 8. Attack, deal 7 damage. Each ally may discard a card. For each card discarded this way, the homeworld powers up once. Alright, I will equip the Double Shot and the Swordbreaker. And I've got a total of 6 to buy with, which I think is going to be... I think it's going to be... 6 to buy with. I think we're going to grab the Hove Artillery. And then replacing that will be another Hove Artillery. Are there any afterburn effects that we want to resolve here? I think we already did. Yep, we did all of our afterburn effects. That's how we were able to activate Pan's special ability. 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then last card from the turn order deck. Hey, look at that, boss turn. Let's move up to Solar Collision. Advancing the Supernova. Then any player discards a card and suffers 1 damage. Which, let's see if we've got any bolsters here. Not in Pan's hand. Sana doesn't have one either, so I guess Pan will discard the card and suffer the damage. And then for every other minion in play, this one gains a health. So this one actually takes 6 health or 7 health to kill now. Next card up is Gravitational Collapse. Either advance the Supernova twice or any player loses 2 slots. And I believe if you drop slots to below your capacity... Let me look. I don't know if there's a ruling on this, but I would think if you ever drop below your equipped slots, you have to discard down immediately. I'm just going to look at that real quick. The number of weapon slots you have determines how many weapons you can have equipped at the same time. So I'm going to have Sana lose 2 slots, which means I'm going to have to discard a weapon. I will discard the Blaster, since I can use the Booster Boots to gain her slots back. With that, let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. Sana lost 2 slots, but we have some serious firepower equipped here. Pan's got a Double Shot and a Swordbreaker equipped. Sana's got Booster Boots and a Remote Detonator ready to go. Pan's down 1 health, Sana's still at full strength. As for the Solar Collision, we've got the Asteroid Shard and the Planetary Rubble out, and Solar Collision is about to level up again. So we're going to be hitting a Solar Flare. We're probably going to be hitting a Solar Flare this turn, most likely. We'll shuffle these up. And we'll see what we can do here. Okay. And then first a card out of the turn order deck is a boss turn, because of course it is. Let's move up to the Solar Collision. Alright, boss doesn't activate. We advance the Supernova there. Then Planetary Rubble, any player discards a card and suffers a damage, which this time we will have Sana discard the card and suffer a damage. And it gains another health, and then the boss levels up again to level 3. Instant minions in play gain 2 health, and it activates the supernova again. So we're at our first solar flare. Our first solar flare says, any player suffers 4 damage. Owie! We'll have Sana take that to the face. Not fun. And then we'll shuffle these up. It's a 4-card shuffle. We're going through the deck ridiculously fast at this rate. Next card up. Nuclear fusion. The homeworld suffers 3 damage and advance the supernova. So Fellis now is down to 15. And we advance the supernova again. What fun. Next card up. Player 1. Let's move down to Pan. Double shot will deal 2 damage to the solar collision and 2 damage to the planetary rubble. Then we'll use Swordbreaker to deal 7 damage to the asteroid shard, as much as I don't want to do that. So we need to do 9 damage to take that out. It's at 8 right now. Solar collision is down to 54. Then we've got a blaster to equip and 4 to buy with, which will be the RB. Actually, it's going to be a gravity tether. Then we'll let the extra 1 go to waste. Because we're starting to get a little bit high on the supernova for comfort. Okay. Next card out of the turn order deck is player 2, so let's move over to Sana. First thing we'll do is we'll use the booster boots to take out the planetary rubble. Then we'll use the remote detonator. Does anybody have a bolster in their discard pile? Pan didn't. Sana doesn't either. So where do I want to point this damage? We're going to point the 4 damage at... Do I point it at the asteroid shard? That's going to let 3. That's going to make 3 damage go to waste. But we'd also be advancing the supernova again, which would put us at another solar flare. And I can't necessarily guarantee that Pan will go again before the solar collision will. I think I'm going to point the damage at the solar collision, bringing it down to 50, and gamble that we get to go. That one of us will get to go again before the boss does. Then I'll equip the blaster, the atmoscope, and I've got 3 to buy with, which I think is going to be Sana. Is Pan going to discard a card? He is not. So 3 to buy with, I think, is going to be a gravity tether. And we'll move that over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's see if the gamble pays off here, coming out of the turn order deck. The gamble does not pay off, because there's a boss turn. So let's move up to the solar collision. All right, resolving the asteroid shard, advancing the supernova. And since solar collision is 3 or higher, the homeworld suffers 2 damage. Fell us down to 13, and we're at another solar flare. So this one we'll find. The players collectively lose 2 slots. I think each of us can lose 1, which will cost Sana her blaster, which is rather unfortunate. And then the next card is a solar shockwave. Any player suffers 4 damage or activate a minion in play. If the solar collision is level 3 or higher, do both instead. So Pan will suffer the 4 damage this time down to 5, and we advance the supernova again. A little bit late, but now at least the boss cards are out of the turn order deck. Next up here, player 1. So let's move down to Pan. The blaster will take out the asteroid shard, even though we're getting ready to shuffle the deck again. Let me deal with afterburns first. We've got 1 afterburn here to power up. And then we can discard 2 equipped weapons to return the sword breaker to the hand, except we don't have those. Oh wow, it's raining today. Let's see, we will spend, so we'll start off with our 4 energy, 3 of which will go to gaining a slot, so I can equip both the, so I can equip both the blaster and the hub artillery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that looks like mostly garbage. But hey, look at what we've got here. Player 2, so let's move over to Sana. We'll use the atmoscope to hit the solar collision for 4 to bring it down to 46. We really need to get some damage on this solar collision. And that's the only 2 cards in the discard pile right now. So we'll equip the blaster, and we've got 6 ether or 6 energy to buy with, which I think is going to be gaining 2 slots. Which means Pan can destroy 2 cards in hand. We're going to get rid of 2 power cores. I want to start getting rid of some of the crap out of his deck. And 1 energy just is not impactful right now, and we need to be picking up when we need to be getting big bombs here. So with that, let's move back up top to look at how the board state's changed. In all honesty, it's probably too late for us at this point. Sana's back up to 3 equipped slots, and I will remember to move everything to her discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looking at her hand. Okay, not completely liking that, but Sana's got a blaster equipped right now. Pan's got a blaster and a hub artillery equipped. Both of us are at 5 health right now, so we're not in great shape. Thankfully, we managed to clear the solar collisions board out for the time being, so we won't be leveling up until this next run, until after this next run through the turn order deck, which we'll go ahead and shuffle up now. Alright, coming out of the turn order deck next, we have player 2, so let's move down to Sana. We'll blaster the boss for 1, because right now we need all the damage we can find and then some. Then I'll equip the booster boots to gain a slot. Pan will destroy another dark core in hand, or power core in hand. And we've got another blaster to equip, and a total of 4 to buy with, which will be, it's actually going to be another gravity tether, and we'll let the 1 float away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't think I paid attention to the afterburn effect. Yep, we'll deal 2 damage on the afterburn effect, since that was in the discard pile during the turn. Alright, let me look at... Okay. Next card out of the turn order deck is a boss turn. I'll meet you guys up at Solar Collision with a new battery. Alright, we activate the level token, which is advanced to Supernova, so we're at Supernova level 10. Here we'll find The players collectively discard 4 cards. Gross, gross, gross. Well, Pan will start by discarding an Atomic Echo. Actually, that's on an ally. That bolster's on an ally turn, isn't it? Yes, during an ally's turn, so we actually don't get the draw from that. Let me start off by looking at... Oh, this is bad. So Sana will discard a Power Core. Jeez. We'll discard a Quantum Sphere because we need to be able to push the Supernova back. A Blaster. And Pan will discard a Power Core. There's 4 cards. Yikes. And Gravitational Collapse. Either advance the Supernova twice, or any player loses 2 slots. Sana will lose the 2 slots. Alright, next card from the turn order deck is the boss turn again. So we're advancing that to Supernova 11. Nothing going on right now. And there's the Burning Wreckage back again, has 8 health. Fantastic. Well, we probably need to start going to work on this. So, player 1 sends us back down to Pan. This is going to be a very uneventful turn. 6 damage to the Burning Wreckage. 3 to buy with, which will be another Gravity Tether. Ooh-wee, I know. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card out of the turn order deck. Player 1. Good thing we're right here with Pan, and he's got nothing going on. So we'll go ahead and equip the Double Shot and the Sword Breaker. We'll use the Gravity Tether to push back the Supernova, and we've got 3 to buy with. Let's make sure there are no afterburn effects in there. No. I think we'll just grab another Gravity Tether. And we'll move that back over to 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then to remove any doubt, hey, look at that. Player 2, Sana's turn. So let's move over to Sana. 2 damage to take out the Burning Wreckage. And then we'll equip Sana's Remote Detonator, and the Gravity Tether will push back the Supernova. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make sure we don't have any afterburn effects in the discard pile. We do not. So let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. Also, Sana should have gained a health from Alpha Formation when Pan equipped the 2 weapons that cost 1 energy or more. So she's at 6 health, Pan's at 5, and we're very much in a dicey situation, especially with Fellis being at 13 health. As for the Solar Collision, Supernova right now is at level 9. We've managed to push it back a little bit, but we're trying to keep it away from that last Solar Flare, especially after we had an earlier Solar Flare rip apart our hands. So we'll give this a shuffle. This is the turn order deck I'm talking about. Okay. Solar Collision is at 43 health, but things are looking very dicey at this point. First card up is, of course, a boss turn, as if things didn't look dicey enough. So let's move up to the Solar Collision. We're advancing the Supernova back to level 10. Thankfully, we don't trigger the Solar Flare again, but the boss will level up to level 4. So minions now enter with plus 6 health, and whenever we activate it, we advance the Supernova. Joy, joy. So now if the boss levels up again, we lose the game. So we're giving the deck a shuffle and a cut. First card coming off the top is a Solar Shockwave. Any player suffers 4 damage or activate a minion in play, but there are no minions in play. Sana will take the 4 damage going down to 2, which is not great for us. Next card up is player 2. Speaking of Sana, let's move down to her. The remote detonator will hit the solar collision for 4, bringing it down to 39, and any player may return a bolster card from their discard pile to their hand. The only one who's got bolster cards right now is Pan, I think. Yes. Sana doesn't have any bolster cards in her discard pile. Pan will pull... We'll pull the hub artillery back because we need all the damage we can find right now. Then Sana will equip an Atmoscope, and we've got 6 to buy with, which will be 2 slots, and Pan will destroy 2 cards in hand, which will be 2 more power cores. Because we need to be getting to the big stuff as fast as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card up is player 1. So let's move over to Pan. 9 damage going into the boss's face, bringing him down to 30. Then let's check for any afterburn effects. The Molten Core will let us power up. Nothing there. I'm going to equip the Blaster and the Hub Artillery. Equips 2 or more on a turn. So I've equipped 2 weapons, but I'm going to actually use the Afterburn effect on the Swordbreaker, which lets me discard 2 equipped weapons to return this back to my hand. And then I'll equip the Swordbreaker, and since we have equipped 2 weapons in a turn that cost 1 or more, Sana will gain a health and go back up to 3. Then we've got 3 to buy with, which will be... We're actually going to do, for the first time ever, we're going to overcharge a tech. So we're going to pay the energy cost for that tech. Let me just double check how that works. Spend energy equal to its cost, resolve the effect, and place it for the bottom. Alright, so we'll resolve the Adrenal Booster for 3. Attack with any player's weapon, which will be the Swordbreaker. So that'll bring Solar Collision down to 23. And then we get to reveal the top card of the turn order deck, return it to the top or bottom. So here we'll find player 1, which we're going to leave. Then that goes to the bottom of the deck, and replacing it in the tech deck will be Gigaboard for 7. Any ally draws 2 cards. Any ally may then discard a card. If they do, you power up twice. Then we'll flip this over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I don't completely hate that. And then just like we saw earlier, card here is player 1. So let's move down to Sana. We'll hit the boss with an Atmoscope for 4 to bring it down to 19. Then we're going to equip a Blaster. And we potentially have as much as 6 to buy, but we're going to use the Gravity Tether to push back the Supernova. We've got 4 to buy with, which I think will be the RB7 launcher. And then replacing that will be Taze Tethers for 3. Attack, deal 2 damage. Any ally may discard a card. If they do, increase that damage by 2. And all of that will move to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card up is a boss turn, so let's move up to the solar collision. Advancing the supernova, and the next card we find... Burning Wreckage is back again. Third time we've had that out this game. And the last card in the player turn, in the player deck, is player 2. So let's move down to Sana. I think we're at a point here where we need to start racing. So with that in mind, we're going to blaster the boss for 1 to bring him down to 18. And we're going to have to rely on the gravity tethers to keep the to keep the supernova at bay. We'll equip 2 blasters and booster boots. And we'll go, we have 3 to spend unless Pan wants to discard a card. He actually will. He'll discard the Atomic Echo, and now we'll get the bolster to draw 2 cards. Okay, we can definitely push the supernova back a little ways. Alright, so now we've got 4 to buy with, which will be the Tase Tethers for 3. And I think the 1 is just going to go to waste ultimately. I mostly wanted the card draw from that, and we got another double shot there. Then we'll discard all of this in that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. We are probably going to have to hope and pray that Fellas can survive having the Burning Wreckage activate a few more times. We definitely are going to have to be in full race mode at this point. Pan's at 5 health right now, Sana's at 3. Pan is working on powering up again. Sana has got 3 weapons equipped right now, but they're all 1 damage weapons. Solar Collision is at 18 health at level 4, and the Supernova right now is at level 10. But I think we've got several gravity tethers in hand to be able to push that back even further. So this is probably a gamble, but we are going to try to race the supernova here. Because I think that's where we're at this point. First card up from the turn order deck is player 2, so let's move down to Sana. 3 damage going at the solar collision, bringing it down to 15. Then we'll equip a remote detonator. We'll use a gravity tether to push back the supernova. And we've got 5 to buy with, which 5 will be a Starburst for 2. And a Dark Matter Core for 3, which we will grab that. We can't use the Afterburn because we don't have anything in hand. Replacing the Dark Matter Core is a Quasar Cell for 2. Bolster to power up and gain 2 energy. Then we'll move it back like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Alright, next card from the turn order deck we have player 1. Let's move over to Pan. Pan has got a lot of Bubkiss going on right now, but he will equip a blaster, and we've either got a lot of energy to buy with, or we can push the supernova back a long way. Actually, you know what we could do? No, I think that's probably a pretty bad idea. Just looking at... I'm just wondering if we... Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Well, I need at least one of those gravity tethers to push back the supernova, so I'm going to use that one to push back the supernova to 8. And then I've got a total of 7 left, which would be just enough to supercharge to overcharge the Giga board, which would let Sana draw 2 more cards. In the hope of getting more damage, which or potentially, well, yes, I think we are going to overcharge the Giga board with that. I'll have to count on the supernova being pushed back far enough that we can race that. So we'll overcharge the Giga board, which means Sana will draw 2 cards, which I end up with mostly garbage. Then we can discard a card. If we do, you power up twice, which she won't do. Because right now powering up isn't that good. And then replacing that will be neutronic shielding for 6. Any ally powers up twice. Any player destroys a card in their hand or discard pile. And we'll put it back like that. We'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, next card up from the turn order deck is player 1. Good thing we're right here with Pan. Blaster will take the Solar Collision down to 14. And then we've got way more weapons than we can equip right now. So I'm going to equip... We've got both boss turns coming up. The question is, do we gamble that we survive the draw? I think we got to gamble that we survive. So I'm going to equip the 2 biggest weapons I've got. I'm going to equip the Hub Artillery and the Swordbreaker. And then 1 ether doesn't do much for me, so I'll discard everything else and draw back up. Like I said, I'm going to have to gamble. Actually, did we have an afterburn in the discard pile? We did, so Pan will power up. That was technically in the discard pile, so it's a little bit of a complicated interaction. Next card up is a boss turn, so let's move up to the Solar Collision. We advance the Supernova per the boss level token. And would we advance that for each boss level token or just the current one? Because if it's for each one, then we're completely screwed. On any level tokens in play. So I think I'm ruling that it's only the current one. It might be all of them, but that seems like it would be way too broken. Then the Burning Wreckage of the Homeworld suffers 2 damage. No other minions in play right now. Next card up is Planetary Rebels back again. Alright, next card from the turn order deck is another boss turn. Good thing we're right here. Advance the Supernova again. Homeworld suffers another 2 damage, going down to 9. Then for each other minion in play, advance the Supernova. Then Planetary Rebel, any player discards a card and suffers a damage, which will be... See if Pan's got any crap in his hand. I will have Sana eat that because I just drew a bunch of power cores. And then the Planetary Rebel will suffer... And then Planetary Rebel will gain a health. Next card up. Nuclear Fusion. The Homeworld suffers 3 damage and advance the Supernova. So Fellis is down to 6. And we advance the Supernova to level 12. And our last Solar Flare for the game. The Homeworld suffers 4 damage. Yikes. So we're going to be coming right down to it, folks. Last card up. Hey, look at that, player 2. So let's move down to Sana. We'll start off by hitting the boss with the remote detonator for 4 to bring it down to 10. Then I think I've got an afterburn in here. Yep, the distilled force has an afterburn, which will bring the boss down to 8. Let me check to see if there are any others. We may discard a card to power up the home world, which we will do. Then we've got a gravity tether, which I'll use to push back the supernova. Then I've got the RB7 launcher, the atmoscope, and 3 ether and 3 energy to buy with, which will be another gravity tether. One, two, three, four, 5. Okay. And then let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. So here's our situation. It's actually pretty simple right now. If Pan goes, or we go twice before the boss goes once, we will win the game. If the boss goes before we go, then we'll lose the game because Felis will take the last 2 damage it needs to drop down to 0. The supernova is back far enough that we won't lose the game that way, but we will lose the game from burning wreckage going off. So, let's grab the turn order deck for the moment of truth. Let's get a really good shuffle on this one. It all basically comes down to the turn of 1 card. It comes down to the turn of 1 card, at most 2. All right. Drum roll, please. Boss turn. So, with that, we'll activate the burning wreckage, which brings Felis down to 0, and we will lose the game. Which is unfortunate, but it was closer than I expected it to be, the way things were looking there. So, we do have an option to replay the scenario, but I'm not going to reset everything. So instead, we're just going to go into the post-fight text. We'll pretend that we played it the second time. So here's the post-fight story. "2 minutes of supernova, Captain," Reshi calls across the ship. "We need to warp out now. The Bobcat can't handle these radiation levels. She's coming apart at the seams." "A little longer." Caleb's hands are shaking, trying to keep the control column pushed forward against the force of the shockwaves rolling through the ship. "We still haven't gotten the all clear." "No, Caleb. Now." "Just a bit longer." Caleb scrubs the sweat out of his eyes. "We can hold on." "If we get caught in that explosion, there will be no Astro Knights left," Zack says, still impossibly calm in the face of danger. "Protect your crew." Okay. Caleb shakes his head. "Ready to warp on my signal." "Captain Cruz." Pan pokes his head out from behind the control console. "We just received a transmission from the Crown Jewel. They've safely warped out with the last of the Felisian refugees." "Ha!" Caleb throws his head back in triumph. "Get us the hell out of here, Resh." Reshi slams the lever on the warp drive, and Caleb feels himself pressed backwards into his seat. Through the window, he can see the stars and planets and nebulae blurring past, making him feel like they're whizzing through a rainbow tunnel. It's moments like this that remind him just how beautiful the universe is. Reminds him of how he used to dream about it as a kid, staring up at the stars, knowing he'd be there one day, so close he could touch them. Caleb? Caleb looks up at the sound of Reshi's voice and sees his whole team gathered around him, staring fearfully out the cockpit window. When he looks back, he doesn't see anything amiss. Just the rainbow whiz of stars through the warp tunnel and the emptiness of space all around them. But then he realizes the ship isn't moving. It's hanging in space, as if it was suspended in time. It's frozen in the middle of the warp stream. How is this possible? Reshi murmurs, her hands gripping tight into Caleb's shoulders. This shouldn't be possible. I have seen many things in my long existence, Zack says, taking a step towards the window, but I do not recall ever seeing this before. Suddenly the warp tunnel shifts. The rainbow stream of stars contorts, pushing inwards toward the ship until they form a hand, a gigantic ethereal hand, rising up between the Bobcat and reaching all around, beneath the Bobcat and reaching all around them. In front of them, two blazing eyes open and a gigantic human face presses close to the front of the ship. Hello, Astro Knights, says a voice that drifts into Caleb's head like music. I am eternity. We'll return everything there and we'll reset all of that. Yikes. So that will be next week's battle as we take on Eternity, whatever that is. Hopefully we'll get a little more introduction in the pre-fight text. Still a busy week coming up on the channel. Tomorrow night we're going to have the demo game for Momentum Football for the 1972 NFL season replay. We'll be replaying Super Bowl VII as the Miami Dolphins take on the Washington Redskins at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Wednesday we'll be playing Age of Innovation from Futureland Spiel. I haven't decided yet if that's going to be a recorded playthrough or a streamed playthrough. I'm leaning toward recorded though, but we'll see. Saturday Mystical Munchies will continue out of the official Diablo cookbook with the dessert, Irish Plum and Honey Cake. And as I mentioned next week we'll see this fall campaign end. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.